session where we're meet with everybody else again and longer, but we wanted to speak specifically last 2 weeks ago during the Health, Welfare, and Building Regulations Committee. The concept of looking at some of our tax structures in the city came up, and that aligned with what my initial idea was, and that is the reason I brought up the initial loan forgiveness housing thing concept, was we want to take down barriers and encourage young families of all sorts who want to live in our city and make this home and invest their time and money into the city. And one of the barriers identified is that some of the taxation structures could be seen as a negative, and I agree. And one of those is the tax credit. Currently in the city of Massillon, if you live in the city of Massillon and work outside, you only get 90% credit for any tax paid outside of the city, and you still have to pay 10%, about 0.2 what it is. It used to be 75%, but it did get bumped to 9% when you passed the street levy. And it's been something I've been working on and wanting to see restored to full 100%. I know a couple other council members felt the same way. We needed to get some numbers, and I do apologize. I know the board had produced some excellent numbers, and I left them on my desk, so all I have is email. Oh, perfect. If you want to just pass them, and then they can
Well,
get them.
I only have my copy.
Well, if they want to.
I made copies. The email today?
No, she has more in depth. So what Lori can just pass around, you guys can peruse at your leisure tonight.
Print that out?
They have those numbers already. So wait, if you guys want to see that on that her spreadsheet, that's fine. But she also has it broken down by community where someone may work and how much money is generated from that. Is what the whole package is. I guess the bottom line is the tax credit. When I put in that email 9% to 100%, I'm just trying to demonstrate what we actually collect because of that 10%. In 2017, we collected $363,630.65. And then in 2018, we collected $348,039.70. So if we were to restore full 100%, we could estimate about a $350,000 revenue hit that the city would not be breaking in. Now, we also brought up the street lighting 2 weeks ago. Street lighting brings in $324,000. Now, there are some bills that are paid with that, but obviously, you know, I look at it 6 to 1, that doesn't together, and we pay things with this tax credit as well. It's not like that money just sits there and does nothing. So either way, the city would take a hit of over $300,000 and we have to make it up in other ways. I did speak to Janie, and she does not have an official report to show us the readout yet. She does believe that the numbers are looking strong, and we are looking at our typical increase that we've had for the past few years of around 2%. So there is a little bit of growth still occurring there. And then a couple of members of city government have voiced concern because both the tax credit and the street lighting was part of our 5-year plan that we submitted to the state, and that has not expired until 2022. So that's kind of the baseline of where to start conversation. In my opinion, I am leaning towards, if we were to take action on one of these issues, I would be leaning towards the tax credit personally, because I believe that is an identified barrier for young people to want to move into the city. Simply for the argument of why should I live in Massillon and pay essentially what they view as a penalty when I could just live in one of the surrounding townships and not have that penalty at all. So our goal is to reduce barriers and increase people's interest in wanting to live in the city. We need to get rid of all barriers. That's the conversation. Who's there?
I know that those of us on council, when we submitted this plan, especially with the tax credit, we always talked about trying to get back to 100% and working towards that. That was one of our goals when we dropped it down to 75%. And 2 years ago, we managed to get it back to 90%. And we always wanted to get back into 100% tax credit. So we should at least, you know, start this conversation, have this review. And I agree with you, we've had plenty of people talking about this is a barrier to bringing younger people to Massillon. We need our city to grow, and by doing that, we need to attract younger people. And when people hear that they're getting penalized twice and paying taxes like in the city of Canton and the city of Massillon, why are they going to choose to live in the city of Massillon?
Ms. Livitt?
I just wanted to clarify, so in 2018, we collected the 324 lighting fee, and 2018, the tax credit, we collected an additional 348. So if both of those were no longer collected, it would be pretty detrimental to our budget, one, and two, I know we've had a carryover in the past, but that's not to say that every year in the future we are going to have those types of carryovers. I guess I would like to know what street lighting costs we have. If we've collected 324 and we're paying out 323, that's pretty relevant to the revenue stream that would be generated from that item.
I can tell you what's in the budget.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I would have that of that 324, $32,419.89 is for capital.
32,000.
Yeah. So
32,000.
419 and then 89 cents. $291,779.35, which is general fund. And then yes, Lori.
Well, I'm talking to Debbie Bond and looking at the budget.
You need to get to the microphone, you sort of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're back there. Where am I?
You
said you.
Okay, could you go up there?
Or anywhere where I can see you instead of going to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you look at the budget under that item on the line, $400,000 is what's budgeted. I'll be honest with you, my fear is if we're spending close to $400,000 and we take away the 300 and some plus, then we're even a little bit more in the deficit because it's almost a double. So I'm just worried that we need to talk about the expense piece too. We talk about the revenue, but what other expenses might be out there in the next, upcoming year that might need a little help with the tax piece right now.
For 2019 then, if we're looking at the tax credit, it's going to be affecting 2020. Because
I guess that's one thing I would point out. If you remove the street lighting fee and say we make it effective January 1 of 20, that's an immediate cut of revenue in 20. If we were to remove the tax credit, the city wouldn't feel that in 2021 because it would go into effect in 2020, which we don't collect until, we collect some through the year, but the majority of it we wouldn't collect until 2021, so it's effective 2021, budget instead of 2020.
you're saying effective January 1 of 2020.
Yes. You see how one would affect immediately, and the other one would be about a 12-month delay.
I do.
So I guess in some regards, that could be an added benefit as well. One direction could be.
I think we also need somebody needs to probably have a phone call to the state and see, is this going to affect this 5-year plan in any way, shape, or form? I can't recall off the top of my head what they said about revisiting that plan if we need or not.
And I agree with that. I think one interesting though is, I don't know, and maybe Paul, you remember, did we have any conversations with the state with the street levy? Because the street levy moved it from 75 to 90, and I don't recall talking to the state about that.
I believe, wasn't the street levy always part of the plan? In a way, there was always a push, I think it was within the levy, or within the plan itself, it was just we had to keep it 10%.
I think either way we go, the argument for the state that they do take an issue with is we replace those dollars through the street levy. That street levy more than double what credit ever produced. Because the credit produced at max $1 million, I believe.
probably supply that. I've come across some documentation that shows what exactly was discussed with state, so it probably will break that down. So I can, I'll look into that this week and get that information. Yeah, 21, I think, isn't it, go through 21? So,
This was the street levy.
I'll look at that and see what I can find. I'll let you know either way if I have that documentation.
Ms. Linda?
Was there any confirmation that the difference in 2017 and 2018 of, what, $25,000, $30,000 was due to the hospital? You have a speculation here?
Well, the
You
only
have something?
reason I made that speculation was because we saw overall collections go down a little bit. So that's the only reason
But when you look at the income tax, okay, right now, we're about 1% down where we were last year. So when we lost the hospital at first, that's when we went from 75 to 90. So that kind of kept us even. So last year is when we kind of took the jump. So as this year progresses, we'll have that 90% in and the hospital out for the whole year. So you'll kind of get a better read. You kind of get a better read of where that income tax revenue is lacking. Yeah, because we made the jump, I think, to 90, and then we lost the hospital. So it's almost like a year lag.
Yeah, I remember conversation at the time when we thought the hospital would be maybe, that hit like 600,000. But we were in a position where our income tax was growing significantly. It is slowing, like you said, and it's slowed some down, but 2-3 years ago, our income tax was growing leaps and bounds. So that compensated for it, or, you know, it kind of distorts it a little bit here on what's really happening. Yeah. It was good though. I mean, it was nice that we were growing that fast and we were able to absorb it, but
You say that Jane has indicated that that would be a 2% growth, and that is for the entire year. That's not where we are currently. Do we have a certification date of?
She only has the 2.1 million that had announced a couple of weeks ago that she had recertified previously. She doesn't have, she didn't give me any indication of another recertification coming. Typically, if you were to look at the previous years, she typically does do another one in the fall, which can indicate that. And she very informally, I said, are we seeing the same kind of growth? And she said, yeah, things are looking strong. I said, do you think about 2%? She said it could be, but she's not giving an official report, so we couldn't report that as being an official number. It just was a speculative number that she was giving. So I wouldn't want to hold her feet to the fire. Ms. Freeman?
I guess this is where you're losing me. So we lost the hospital in 2018. So the income tax, we expected this year when we got people paying that, we would see a decrease because we lost, what, 6-7 months?
Right.
Okay, so now you're telling me that possibly we're seeing an increase compared to last year. I guess I'm not, the numbers in my head, I'm not adding up to.
What, income tax year to date is down 1%, okay? And so when I look at it, we gained from moving the tax credit up at the same time when we lost the hospital, kind of coincides with each other. So the hospital revenue that we've got from the income tax is just starting to catch up with us now because we didn't have a whole year of it last year.
But the tax credit has been in effect for multiple years.
What I would
It's just
say-
not new.
And I
It's,
would say that was my speculation, and as I think about it, I don't know if that would make sense, because that's the inner, so tax credit's only gonna affect people that work outside of the city.
correct, it's not the hospital.
So that's why I said it was speculative, and as I thought more about it, I don't know if that really would line up. It may have been just a afford to make this move. You know, I've always been someone that says I feel that this particular method of revenue collection for the city is, in my opinion, unjust and unfair. It seems like we're taxing the same dollar twice. And I just don't really like it. So I've always been championing trying to get rid of it or, you know, eradicate it, but doing intelligence as well, you know, jeopardize the functioning and operation of the city. If we decide to do that. Like I said, city officials have voiced their concerns on all levels. Yes, very professionally, very nicely. Are there any other questions or discussion? I mean, we're only 15 minutes in. Are there any other thoughts about this? If something were to be brought up right now, how would council feel with it? You know, 'cause at some point we're going to have to move forward with it. What do you want me to collect? What information you still need?
You said you don't really like this thing, tax. What would you replace it with? I mean, I don't like taxes either, but we do have to have revenue to run the city, you know, and you can't just give away all of our tax revenue. You know, and I don't want things to be unfair, but either, you know, but still we have to realize that we need this revenue. You know, we went through that fiscal emergency. Really disappointed. Maybe we need this revenue.
Well, one of my big contentions would be, like I already stated, it seems like you're taxing the same dollar twice, someone's income. And two, this was a non-voted on taxation. So the citizens had no say. We, as a council, just put it on. And that, you know, we directly tax their income. That doesn't sit well with me. I mean, the citizens of Massillon decided that they wanted to bless their government with more revenue in order to provide services that they desire, then so be it. Citizens will do so, such as the street levy. In this particular case, we just took it.
I guess I have an opinion regarding the street lighting. I have a hard time with what Lori's indicated about what we're spending, approximately $400,000 and collecting $324,000, that we are already dipping into other revenue to even pay that street lighting expense. So that would be a hard one for me to swallow as far as accepting from a different revenue source an expense of $400,000.
All right, I guess we're just let you guys think it over, and we won't, I don't think it's necessary to call another 6 o'clock. We'll just discuss this at the next finance committee at the regular scheduled time, and make sure to keep that conversation going. I think it'd probably be a little premature to draft any kind of legislation request at this time.
We should ask the administration to find out if this would affect that 5-year plan. What we can talk. Not, we know it will affect it, but I mean, what the state
Response would be if we were in this particular
I have to know how to follow it.
Lori should be the initial follow-up. Were there other concerns, Lori, that you wanted to voice before council?
You mean like expense concerns?
Whatever concerns related to this, I want to give you the opportunity.
Just a few things on the expense side I just wanted to bring up. In the plan, we have the revenue split, which will decrease what we receive on the income tax side next year by about $230,000. And then we have already approved raise for the men in blue. So that contract has been through. That's an additional approximately $174,000 a year, and we still have the fire to go. So just some things as getting the budget ready and starting to work and dig my hands in a little bit, some things I've come up with about about the revenue side and the expense side. So I like to weigh both. But those are a couple of the big things. And then quite honestly, what we've had happen over the last week or so with the rains and what the forces that we've had to go out and some things we've had to repair from, what Mother Nature's done in the last couple of days. So don't even know what the cost of that might be yet. So just a few expense things. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand why, council's considering this, but I like to just throw those expense pieces in there also.
And I would just put that, we voice those concerns to me, auditors also voiced their concerns, and my opinion for both of them is, I think you're doing a great job by being concerned. I mean, your job is to oversee the finances and come up with budgets and matrix. I hope you are concerned. So I just think that's a sign of excellent work that they're doing and keeping tabs on the spending and revenue. Other than that, we can discuss it more at the next meeting. But it is something I've been looking at for quite a while, and it's nice to be able to start this conversation and see where we end up landing in the future. I'll close this until our work session.
Get this meeting going here. First of all, I know there are people here to talk about the Duncan Plaza proposal, and we said, we were going to open things up and allow some discussion, but we are going to put that at the end today. Let's try to get all of our regular business out as far as what we had carried over from the last council meeting, the new requests. Then we'll start into that and have some discussion here. So first is community development. I've got 3 left over. We couldn't move anything. We have 2 that I won't say they're routine, but do with here's 92 there. All right. I'm sorry. All right, 91 I had an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service Safety of the City of Massillon to enter an agreement to transfer hospital equipment items from the City of Massillon to the Community Improvement Corporation of Massillon, CIC. We would have probably moved this last week, but we didn't have a quorum. I will be asking to move this in the next meeting. The other one is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio to enter into an agreement to transfer hospital medical equipment to the CIC. So both of those will be looking to move ahead. The third one that I have, and this will be up for 3rd reading, this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of Massillon to accept a grant from First Energy Corporation to be used for the city's renaissance of Duncan Plaza. And I believe that was that's $10,000. That will be up for 3rd reading. So this can come into the conversation at the end when we are talking about Duncan Plaza, but just to let you know, this is going to be there for 3rd reading. All right. Couple of new ones here. This is CDBG allocations program for year 2019. The city allocated community development block grant funding to a number of local agencies to assist in the operation of their various programs and services for the CDBG program for 2019 and 2020. The city's 2019 action plan has been approved by HUD by City Council Ordinance 47, 2019. Request is hereby for council's authorization to enter into contract agreements or funding agreements for the following agencies. So we'll have this on for first reading and we can discuss it, whether we want to move it immediately. Samantha's here. You want to say a few things about it while we're on this?
What this is just to allocate the funds that you already approved, I believe, back in May. We're just preparing everything for the program year. Money should be coming in soon, so I wanted to get it in now to give you guys plenty of time to take it through reads if you do so choose. So that is just allocating those funds, and then we have another one on as well to enter into contract.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on it? We've been through this a couple of times before we approved it, so then we'll move it on first reading then if we can. And the only other thing I have here till we get to the end on Duncan Plaza is I asked the law director, I should have brought this up 2 weeks ago, I forgot, to take a look back at our past ordinances that as far as what applied to city council. I have these two here, and basically what they would do is they would eliminate the ordinance that we passed in, I'm not sure what year it was now. 2012? Okay, in 2012. So we'll send these out, everybody can read them, look at them, think about them. We're not talking about any raises other than you would be putting back the same formula. So we'll at least discuss it. We had a cost of living formula at the time. So I thought, well, let's get it out here and start talking about it and see what we might want to do with it and make up our meeting plans, starting at the next committee meeting to decide if we want to put it on to do something with it, or if we just want to ignore it alone, or we want to do something else. Diane's still getting information. She has some more from Warren. She hasn't gotten anything yet from Newfield Andover, but try to have those for the next meeting. That's all I've got for right now. You have more going on? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Dave, please prepare an ordinance to allow the city of Massillon to enter a memorandum of understanding with Johnson Controls to do a preliminary assessment for a facilities upgrade project to city buildings. See Exhibit A. Dave, would you or somebody from the administration come up and tell us what we're looking at here?
Actually, we have Justin Wilson from Johnson Control here to speak about this.
Okay. Go ahead. Here with Dave. We may run all the way around.
Oh.
Yes, I had some people ask me right away, what are we doing here? So.
Okay, yep. So my name is Justin Wilson. I'm a project executive with Johnson Controls, and we're here tonight to talk about performance contracting. And what that is it's a legislatively enabled program that allows local governments, such as the City of Massillon, to upgrade their infrastructure in a budget neutral way. So it would be funded through the energy savings that the project creates. We can look at anything that uses energy. So in your city buildings, your wastewater treatment plant, street lighting, any of these things are potential. In your buildings, we would look at your lighting, building controls, building management, your HVAC, your building envelope, so roof, windows, insulation, flooring. We consider all of these things. The way the process works is, first we start with a feasibility study. That's where we are today. We're looking at a memorandum of understanding that allows at no cost to the city. It allows Johnson Controls to come into your buildings and look at them to determine if there's potential for a project. So first, we would look at your utility spend and compare it to your square footage. If a building should operate like, $1.60 a square foot or something, and if you're operating at $3 a square foot, then there's potential for savings. So it's helping the city become more fiscally responsible and redirecting dollars that the city's paying to the utility company into upgrading the city's infrastructure. So you're not taking on additional debt, you're basically moving money around to be more fiscally responsible and upgrade your buildings. So tonight, we're asking for approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding to do that feasibility study. And then after that, we would come back to you with a presentation on what we found. We don't always know what we're going to find when we go into these things. Maybe you're operating at an optimal position and we won't find any project. Maybe we'll find a project in your wastewater treatment plant, or we don't know. So we'll come back to you with those findings and a project development agreement in a few months for your approval, and then we would, after that, come back again with a contract. So right now, it's a memorandum of understanding. Is that attached? Are people been able to see it? Okay. So is there any questions? Yes.
My main question would be, if we were to agree to this memorandum of understanding with you, there is no commitment on behalf of the city to move forward other than your feasibility study. That's at no cost.
Correct, yeah. The commitment is for you to allow us into your buildings for a day or two to provide us utility bills, and then allow us to come back and present our findings. Yes.
Can you give us a few examples of companies and/or other municipalities that you've completed a feasibility study with?
We just completed a feasibility study with the city of North Canton, and we did find a project there, and they're moving forward with that project development agreement right now. We've also done projects, we are under construction on SMHA, Stark Metropolitan Housing Authority. We've also done Lucas Metropolitan Housing Authority. There's multiple other cities and counties in Ohio that I could provide references for. Yeah.
Can you give us just a general, general thought, when you go in and find a project, what kind of savings? I'm sure it's a pretty large range, but do you typically find 50% savings, 10% savings? Can you give us some idea?
Yeah, I would say between probably 20 and 30% of your total energy spend is what we typically find, maybe 20%. And then you can finance it over 30 years, up to 30 years is what the legislation allows, but we would look at probably a 15-year at most program, and it could be, I don't know, it's hard to say numbers right now, but the project, depending on your utility spend, could be $1 million. It's hard to say really, but that's kind of what we typically see. Does that help?
There's going to be an upfront cost then once, if you should find a project, then you're saying to finance that project. Is that done through you?
No, we are not the bank. We don't finance. We can help you find grants, rebates, low interest loans. And we can provide you that information, but ultimately it comes to the city to decide how and who they want to finance with, or pay cash, either way. It's just that whole, it's really too early to say, but we're not the bank in any way. What was your other question?
I'm just getting an idea of whether we would go through you or through someone else if there would be a project to be funded.
Yeah, so there is a cost tied to the project development agreement, which we would come back to you and say there is a potential project here. We can fully develop and engineer and design that project, and there's a cost associated with that we would present to you probably the next time I came back. And then we really make our money on the installation of the project. We don't make money on the design and development. So part of the benefit to the city in working with Johnson Controls is we oversee the entire project, and the subcontractors would come under us. We would try to use local labor where possible, but we allow you to basically eliminate your risk, and we can manage those subs for you. We ensure that there's no change orders. So when we present you a final contract price, that price is guaranteed. There's no change orders. There's no, there's just always a lot of stuff that happens in a typical project. So this eliminates that. And we also guarantee the savings of the project. So at the end, we can measure and verify those savings. And if the city's not achieving the savings that we project, then we write you a check for the difference. So we make up the difference there, and we come in and correct whatever has been installed so that the following year you are achieving those savings.
How large is your team that comes in for one day, and what is the makeup of professionals?
We would bring in a professional engineer. His name is Vince Laban. He's local to the area, and it would probably be myself and him, maybe one other for the day.
So when you mentioned the wastewater treatment plant, so he is an expert in that area, so he can identify
Yes.
efficiencies and
Yep, in wastewater treatment processes, yes, because they're huge users of energy, and so there's usually a lot of good savings to be found there.
If you found a need for a project, would we have any obligation to go back to you to get that completed as a general contractor under this memorandum of understanding?
No, the city would have to,
Sign another contract?
Yes.
To be through you?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, I don't understand any finance, but we'll do these on their committees. Environmental?
Yeah, nothing.
All right, health, welfare,
I have nothing.
parks and rec, Joe?
I have questions.
Okay, all right. Police and fire? They don't have anything. Public utilities,
Nothing at this time.
rules of courts,
I have nothing.
streets and highways.
I have nothing pending, but we did have some issues yesterday with flooding, and I know the city was kind of involved in on the west side. I don't know if the mayor or anybody wanted to make some comments on that. Do you seem to have a crowd here tonight to bring some questions?
Good evening, members of council. Social media has allowed me to be readily available at the click of the send or message button, which is fine. But there were some issues on the west side yesterday with the ODOT project. And ODOT, we had our engineer company, OHM, David Kroc, came out yesterday during the storm, did speak to the resident that was having the most problems on the west side, and let her know to give us a call today. They did have extensive flooding. They had some deck boards for their deck laying on the ground, getting ready to put up a deck that were damaged, and ODOT has been notified. They were notified the night of the storm, and we have a phone number for the gentleman that anyone can call our office and we'll connect them. We put that on our Facebook as well. So if there is a resident out there on the west side that has issues right around that area, all you have to do is call 830-1700 and we'll connect them with the ODOT director. And they'll confer with them. They want to handle this one-on-one from ODOT. And then if there are any issues following that, if they don't handle things properly, then of course they'll call us back and then we'll take it from there. Yeah.
Have they given you an update on timeline? They have a 30-day timeline, and it is now gone and passed, or come and gone. Is there any update on when that project is to be complete?
They had a couple issues that they were not prepared for, and so the project is going to last a little bit longer. So they have to go work through their issues.
To clarify, we're talking about the project on West Lincoln Way and Brookfield area.
That is correct.
yes, we have some old business. One of them is related to the police structures. It was up for second reading, and we didn't move forward with it. And then we also have a $5,000 appropriation for Veterans Park in municipal court. That's just for standard services and work they do on Veterans Park. Again, we were unable to vote on it last week, so I don't see any issues with that. Tonight we have an appropriation of $121,732.10 for the NIP program. This is the program that we use for the acquisition and demolition of houses. It's a reimbursement program that comes from the Stark County Land Reutilization Corporation. We've received those funds, and now we're just appropriating them into our NIP account so that they can utilize. Are there any questions? The next one I have coincides with community development CDBG legislation. It is just the appropriations, the actual appropriations of those agreed upon dollars, and we will just go hand in hand. Definitely agree.
I have a question. The first 3 lines of the document that we received, health, vision, dental, life insurance, workers' compensation, services contracts, code enforcement. I'm kind of questioning the insurance and workers' compensation with CDBG funds.
Yes, those are allowable administration expenses, and the reason that they're on there for appropriation today is because we did have staff change. So at the beginning of the year, when funds were allocated, the costs were different than what we have now for the health plans.
So were those for the code enforcement officers?
No, the health and vision and dental, that was for the community development assistant that was hired to take my position when I moved to director.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, we need to go back. My understanding when I read that was that a portion of the code enforcement officers worked and were able to be paid out through CDBG, but you're saying only?
That, the health insurance is only for that. The services contracts code enforcement, he's a contract employee, so he has no benefits through the city.
And that's where the question is, we spent $47,500 on health insurance for one person?
That's actually the allocation for the entire program year. So it's July 1st through June 30th of 2020.
Yeah, so 1 year. Does that employee even make $47,000?
No, that does cover both of the costs for both of us, but the only reason we had to bring it back to you from the beginning of the year is because we ran short, so we're appropriating the entire amount there.
So the benefits cost associated with this is actually for 2 people, not one?
Yes, correct. The amount originally brought to you at the beginning of the year for the city budget would have covered the current staff, but then with the change, we ran a little bit short.
That makes a little bit more sense. Any other questions? All right, thank you. The next one we have, and we do have, I believe the mayor will speak to this some, it is appropriation of $394,154.20 to cover costs associated with the hospitals, utilities, property tax, service contracts.
Okay, the legislation that you have in front of you is, the taxes are also in there, as you can see, and that's through the end of the year. And we're working, we have a hearing coming up on those taxes for the 2017 year. And then we requested that the taxes go lower than that for the 2018 year. The 2017 year for the taxes, that Forum, they requested that it be lowered, but we didn't agree with that. And so this will be our share of the taxes. And we're, as I said, we're requesting for it to be decreased, but this is what we have to pay at this time. And we will be having a hearing on that.
And then so by my recollection of calculations, I'm going to stretch your memory a little bit too. So last time we had this appropriation discussion, we were still about $1 million for the good after we accounted for the sale of properties that went out. So So with this would leave us about 600,000 or so to the good still.
The one property we still have not closed on, the church needed a little more time. And so we only allocate when we receive the funds to balance it out, and we've not received that at this point. So I would say it would be a little less than that.
Well, bottom line, we haven't started running the red overall yet.
I don't believe so.
And of course, I asked you any update with any of the other conversations.
Sure. So we had a conversation this morning with one of the executive directors at the VA, and what happened was the Cleveland VA sent a letter to Washington, D.C. They mocked it up and sent it back to Cleveland. Cleveland made the corrections, and it's now back on the desk of the executive director, Dr. Stone. We are in the process of preparing a letter from our congressman to go up to both the director and the executive director, Dr. Stone, as well as the VA secretary, Secretary Wilkie, to say how important this is, so that the only thing that's left now is for a signature. So we're just waiting on that signature. But we want to show how important this is to our community, so we're preparing a letter that Congressman Gibbs, Congressman Bryan, Sherrod Brown, and Congressman Anthony Gonzalez will be signing.
And then while we're working on that, are we taking any further measures locally to slow the cost associated with it? Because, I mean, right now we're still looking good, but depending on how long this goes, we're going to cross that threshold. So what are we doing to help slow that?
So one of our code enforcement one of our janitors retired. So the janitor and the facilities maintenance person at the hospital is now our employee and has taken the janitor's position. So he's working both here at the city as well as the hospital. So that eliminated the salary. So there's savings right there. And then we also, I think the average is about $36,000 a month that we're spending on the hospital, which has really decreased since when we started. So we are doing much better with that, and we hope to have that signature on that paper as soon as possible, and then that should be eliminated as well.
And do you know who's responsible for the outdoor maintenance, the landscaping?
We have a contractor company, and we did get some complaints on that, and Barb has been going back out to get that cleaned up.
Any other questions from Sylvan?
Just to confirm, these figures will take care of all of the hospital utilities and services and contracts through the end of the year. You've got 64,000 for utilities and 42. That's through the end of the year on both of those items.
Is that correct, Lori? Pardon me?
Unless there's an emergency.
Unless there's an emergency, yes, unless there's an emergency.
That's all right.
Any other discussion? Thank you. And the remainder I have are transfers. So we have coming in for the WIC realigned budgets, or the realigned balances to pay 2019 health insurance costs for WIC. It's taking $490 out of utilities and putting it into hospital-wide dental. Then we have coming from the auditor, take $4,529.03 from servicing contracts and placing that into hospital-wide dental. That's the health department realignment. Then out of safety, we're taking $6,000 out of supplies, putting it into services, and that's to balance to cover expenses for the year ending. Do we have any kind of explanation for what that $6,000 would be? It's coming from Legal Bride, so I'm assuming it's going to go to streets. So they need an air conditioning unit at the garage. And again, this is just a transfer, so it's already budgeted. It's not really moving anything or reappropriating. It's not an increase in spending, it's just moving from one line to the other, spending that we've already appropriated. And the last one's coming from the building department. It's reducing their servicing contracts of $20,000 and putting it in purchasing lease. And this transfer is needed in order to purchase another vehicle for the building department. Am I assuming that this is just another pickup truck or something of that nature? $20,000.
As we had brought to council before, we had talked about, we hired a full-time, Bruce had retired, so we were proactive and hired a full-time code enforcement officer to replace him. And also, Jimmy has aspirations to maybe do the same at the end of the year, or maybe stay on as just a contracted employee for CDBG. So we got proactive and hired another gentleman also. So this is a vehicle so that they can both be out, two new code enforcement officers, so they can both be out in our city doing what they need for code enforcement.
So currently we have one vehicle for code enforcement.
Yes, and Jimmy has his own vehicle, so yes.
Huh?
Can we ask what kind of vehicle we're purchasing?
It's a Ford Escape. I'm sorry, a Ford Escape.
So say, you're getting a Ford
I'm not a real car person, so it's a Ford Escape. Yes.
I have another question. When you stated Jimmy has his own car, is he using his personal vehicle?
He's a contracted employer, so he does use his personal vehicle through his contractor, his business. So yes, he doesn't drive a city car, he drives his own, and that is a pickup, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And that is all I have to find.
Yeah, I have a question before we move on here. The meeting we had before, that sheet you had worked up, did anybody take a look at how it would affect the revenue of the parks? I asked for it, and they don't believe it did, but it will affect that also, I believe.
Street lighting would not, I don't believe.
Tax credit.
With the tax credit, there probably would be a small impact. We would have to dig deeper, and Lori can assure me that she'll look and see what that impact would be. Thank you, that's a good point. I would add also to that, I did reach out to Canton to verify, and Canton used to have a similar situation, but they, a couple of years ago, fully restored their credit to 100%. So other communities have retracted on this line of thinking.
Okay. Well, we'll move on, I guess. Go to Duncan Plaza, unless somebody else has something else they want to talk about before we go to that. We had a request last week. Yes.
Can anybody from the city give us an update on the Lincoln Street building streetscape?
So the gas company and the water company are finishing up, and we should be starting the project this week.
Thank you.
Just to help put any concerns to rest, one of the things I've been hearing is that the project plans have not been fully approved by the state, particularly the median decorations, such as the tree lawn in the middle.
I've not heard that.
Okay.
So you know something more than I know.
That's what the word on the street was,
Yeah.
and I know I had spoken to some people that I was under the understanding that this was all kind of pre-approved before we went down this road. And I just wanted to verify that for the record, if that would possibly be a concern.
No, they're doing all their back, behind the scenes work right now. The contracting company that we hired, and then the gas company and the water company took a little bit longer than what was expected. We had a lot of pipe, and one pipe was too small, they had to change it out and replace it, so there was a lot of things that they had to work through. And so we should be starting this week.
And in speaking with that company, the 90 days is still the window that they will absolutely close and have it reopen.
3 months is what we have been told, yes.
And then I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but we do have a drop dead date with the contract that they are not completed with the project and they have to start forfeiting funds, correct?
Correct.
What date will the, we're talking about shutting off the whole block. What date will that be done?
We don't have the date yet, but it should be this week, Paul.
Okay. Anybody else in the other? All right, we'll move on then. This was a request we had last week. Please prepare an ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director of the City of Massillon to enter into an agreement with John Patrick Picard Architect Incorporated for architectural services and the redevelopment of Duncan Plaza. And it was an attachment with it. And we said at the time we were going to wait because there was some controversy here. Things were not clear about, is this a park or whatever? I guess I'll ask the law director to come up and tell us where we stand on that.
I'm still researching, although the deed from 1859 is a good starting point. Obviously, the area between, that's referenced in the 1859 deed is much different than when James Duncan, or his sister, donated it to the city. So I am still researching to see exactly the plots of land or parcels as they sit today, if they are a park. However, I would point out to you, if you go on the city's Park and Recreation website, Duncan Plaza is listed underneath Massillon Parks and Facilities. So it's listed right underneath Community Park and right above Eagle 190 Sports Complex on the Parks and Rec website. But like I said, for a formal legal opinion, I'm still researching.
I have a question on that. How far did that go back on Duncan Plaza? Do you have a date?
How far did
90 years
what?
ago, 80 years ago, whenever, Duncan Plaza was named Duncan Plaza, do you have?
Well, that's what I'm trying to go back and see. Like I said, the deed
What I'm
from-
asking though is, we had the old City Hall police station, that there actually was an alley or a street there. I just wondered if it was replatted into the park, or maybe that's still hanging out there somewhere.
That's part of what I am researching. I mean, if you go on the auditor's website and look at actually what we have here now, the building that we're in, the parking lot is one large parcel, although part of the parking lot is a separate parcel. Duncan Plaza itself is 2 parcels now, and at one point, the one parcel was replatted when we donated part of that land to the museum. And then Veterans Memorial Park is a different parcel. So, like I said, although it's listed on the Park and Rec website as a park, I'm still looking at it from a legal aspect to see. But it's going to take a little bit of time to research that on my end. But I am working on it as fast as I can.
Does anybody have any comment they want to make on that, or any questions they'd like to ask about that?
I just have a comment. That's what I stated the last meeting, the work session, that it was listed on the city website, but it was not listed in the Park and Rec seasonal brochure, where it lists all the parks and the different facilities of each park. So I guess that's the whole question. We have discrepancy on where exactly this piece of land falls under, what it falls under.
And that, I mean, I can't speak to why they do or do not list it on there. I believe it's also not part of the master plan from, was it 95 or 96? So again, I can't speak to that, whether they have it listed on there or not. But
Can I ask, just mentioned.
When you're saying it was donated,
According to that deed in 1859, when that was donated,
well,
under that deed,
under this deed, it doesn't give any, I guess, real
There's no
legal
description.
description. And again, it's talking about, sorry, Mill Street. I mean, the names of the street aren't what they currently are today. So, no, this deed is talking about basically street boundaries, but it's not, I mean, no, there weren't parcel numbers attached back from 1859, nor was there, a real good legal description like we have today in deeds. So that's part of the reason why I need to take a good look at it.
Is there anybody else from the administration or anyone wants to say anything up there, anything up there before we open it up to the floor for a while?
give me 1 second.
Okay, good evening again. So I brought out some information for you. And I did speak with Kirk Shuri today. And because the question was that you can use this money for something else. And the answer from State Senator Kirk Shuri is that when it's listed, and he emailed this to me, when it's listed, it says Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and it lists Renaissance of Duncan Plaza. And the only thing you can use the money for is for Renaissance of Duncan Plaza. So it's not like you can go and use it for another park or 2 or 3 or 4 in our city. So it's just for, you can't use it for a municipal parking lot, it's just for the Renaissance of Duncan Plaza. If we wanted to, we could possibly go back and get an amendment or start the process all over again. However, I have heard from a foundation that has donated us money, and they said that I better use the money for what it was given for. And so with the foundations, just want you to know that I've written many, many grants for the Golden Key, and you have to give a report back to the foundations and give a description of exactly what you did with the money that they granted you. So you cannot veer from what you shared with them, and what I'm passing out to you tonight is what we shared with them when we did receive the funding. And this was done by myself, Mr. Pedro, David Maley was in attendance, as well as John Picard. So all of us went together as a joint project to have the Renaissance of Duncan Plaza. And you can see all the facts that we gave, the project name, the budget is listed there, and then we had several elected officials, Jane Ferrero, Andrea Skaz, and Maud Slagle support the project. If you turn the page, we have David Harding, chairman of the Park and Rec Board, and this is dated clear back to 2017. So this has been in the works for many, many years, trying to gather the funds to get the concerts off of Lincoln Way. And truly that was the goal. And honestly, that's what Judge Eddie asked me to do, is to get the concerts. That is true. And I'm not going to argue. But he asked me to get the concerts off of Lincoln Way. And so that was what we worked towards, was to do just that. Philip Elam signed a letter in support of the project. Doug Weatherby from Massillon Main Street. Alexander Nicholas Kuhn from the museum. Ted Hurricane from West Stark Masson Chamber, as well as Patrick Serpilla. So this isn't anything new. We've been working on this, as you can see, for many, many years. And projects just don't come up and all of a sudden we say we're going to do this. We're planning on projects years in advance of when we come to you to execute them. So this has been a long time coming. We just received the donation from First Energy, and she gave us $10,000 to help with that. And I know there was some discrepancy about, is that company going into bankruptcy? And we gave you a letter saying, no, that is not what's happening. It's a completely different company. So we've worked really hard to gather these dollars. And at the 11th hour, and what I want to say too is, Barb, can you hand me those ordinances? You all were helpful in this process because you passed ordinances to accept these donations. Back in 2018, in July, we accepted $50,000 from the Hoover Foundation. We also accepted on September 4th of 2018, $250,000 from the David Foundation, and then we had $100,000 on September 17, 2018 from the Start Community Foundation. And I can also share with you is that many, many people have been so excited about this project, and we deserve it. Honestly, Massillon deserves this. Canton is getting a stage and an amphitheater. Jackson Township is getting one as well. And Massillon, we deserve this. And we've worked hard. We've raised the majority of the money. This should be, honestly, as I told Mr. Grazier, this should be a really, really happy time for our city. We should not be arguing over this. This is money given to us as a gift to move the concerts off of Lincoln Way and to create a venue where we can have over 1,000 people right here in the heart of our city. So I will take questions if you have any, but I think we're very excited about this. I do thank the judge for what contributions he's given to the park over the years, but it is now time for something new. And as I said before, our community deserves this. Yes.
Just for clarity purposes, when you hit on the talking to Kurt Turing at the beginning, we're talking about the $750,000 grant given by the state of Ohio for specifically this project.
That's right.
And there's no guarantee we would keep that $750,000 if we try to amend or change this project, is what you're telling us.
I don't know that answer about the amount, but we would have to go back and, number one, either start over to change the scope of the project, or number two, ask for an amendment. And I would hope that they would give that same amount, but I can't stand here and assure you of that today. But if we do not use the money, he has assured me that we will not get another capital grant from the state of Ohio.
So there's a possibility we have to return it. Still a chance. If we didn't proceed with this.
That's correct. Could be. I mean, we'd have to go back and ask for a change. But like I said, this has not been something that has, this is the 11th hour. This is time to start the design phase. And, you know, you've all known about it. You saw all the signatures we received for support. So I'll let that up to council.
Go ahead with that, then we'll let Mr. Hill speak.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to ask, there was brought up in a prior meeting that there are several other worthy projects in the city. There's not to say that additional dollars could not be requested for any and or all of those projects either in another year, but you know, I'm not sure what that grant cycle would be, but certainly recognizing that there are many other projects, but there are other grants that could be requested either again from the foundations that were so gracious in giving us funds for this project, but also state of Ohio funds, I'm assuming as well. There's grant cycles every year.
Correct. Every 2 years from the state capital budget, We are already planning, and Senator Schuring has already asked us, as well as Representative Holzweiger, to start preparing, and we have our project ready to go for September. We're going to get ours in September. It's not due till around November, but we are already preparing that. Thank you.
Mr. Elo, would you like to? Before we go on, this is something we just started a month ago. We had never had conversation at these committee meetings, and we really, none of the 3 meetings, we haven't had anything. So this is it. Let's keep it still, information as much as we can, and go ahead. And anybody that wants to come up, following up, anybody has any questions here, stop them and ask them if there's anything you want to ask.
Thank you, Councilman Anthony, and members of City Council. I'm really, you heard from me last week, so there's other individuals here in the audience who can speak. I want to clarify something the mayor said. She took me completely out of context. I did ask her that it's really sad when you drive home at 5:30 at night and you see a tractor trailer trying to maneuver behind the house in the public library on North or Federal. I simply asked the mayor, you need to do something, move the concert somewhere else, so these poor truck drivers that are trying to get home to their families, trying to make time and make load, can get there without damaging our streets on North and Federal. So that's the second part of the discussion I had with the mayor. It wasn't anything about, hey, get them on, put them in Dumpling Plaza. First of all, we've never had 1,000 people down here for anything. So I would prefer that other individuals and concerned citizens would speak on the Dumpling Plaza project. You heard from me last week. I do come with a lot of experience. I find it ironic that a person who's going to make about $200,000 in this project is involved in the planning of everything. The mayor's not going to make anything. My brother's not going to make anything. Alex at the museum is not going to make anything. But I think that's a true conflict of interest. The last thing I would like to say is that they're being involved in capital appropriations for 12 years as a general counsel for higher education in the state of Ohio. We amended state appropriations all the time. Everything from the horseshoe to Wright State University auditorium. Every time we ran into a project, everything changes. That money's not going away. By the way, it's not a gift. It's taxpayers' money. So remember that. It's taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John. Excuse me. Things about Marvin. Okay, my question is, when the designing of Duncan Plaza was done, was there anything added for Santaland and all of the decorations and stuff that are put up, the tree lighting and all that stuff? I have worked with Santaland and the cottage for the last 8 years. I didn't get a final count this past Christmas, but the 3 Christmases before we had over 1,000. The year before last, we had 1,100 kids come through that cottage. Now, is there going to be a big enough place to stretch them out and to keep them busy, or they would walk through the lights and stuff that were in the front of the plaza off the walk by the museum, then they would come to the cottage? Well, if artificial turf is put in, like I'm understanding, the decorations will not be able to be put in because they have to be anchored in the ground, and they can't be anchored in artificial turf. And the comments we would get, helping Santa Claus, I would get help with the kids waiting in line and stuff, and the parents and that would say, oh, it's beautiful, and stuff. And 2 of the favorite things the kids liked were cutouts that the kids could put their faces in of Santa Claus and reindeer and an elf and stuff, and Obie Claus and all that. And I just wondered how big of a place was going to be put in for Santa's cottage, and could it handle that many kids? The night of the parade, they stretched clear out and down to the corner of Lincoln Way and First Street past the stage and everything. Is there going to be a big enough place put in Duncan Plaza for that to happen? I have helped, like I said, I have helped with Santa Claus for 8 years now, and I'm working with the new gentleman this year again, the second year, and he likes the cottage and stuff, and it was in a perfect place. We didn't have to worry about steps or anything, and kids just were so excited in that. I'm just wondering, I haven't seen a drawing or anything of the plaza where Santa's cottage is going to be, and I'm just wondering what's going to be done about it. Thank you.
We'll get an answer to that.
Okay, John, it will actually be more conducive for the cottage and all the signage, as well as the Christmas tree will be planted, so we don't have to cut one down every year and then have to have Mr. Behrens come out free of charge to put it up for us and then to cut it down. So the Christmas tree will be planted and we'll be decorating that annually.
I have a question here. I don't remember looking at the plans or anything before, but will the street be affected in any way as far as Third Street? Will it maintain the same width?
The width will be
I
the
know
same.
there's been some talk about angle parking or some of that stuff, but still the street, the park's not going to take any of the land away from the street.
No, and there will not be angle parking on First Street.
There won't be any more.
There won't, and not anymore.
I didn't remember that, but okay. My name is Kathy Reiser. I live at 831 Reservoir Drive, Northeast. And I would like council and mayor to rethink spending all the money on Duncan Plaza. My point of interest is $125,000 taken from the park and rec tax to be spent on Duncan Plaza. That should be spent on excavating the reservoir basin. The 4 storm drains on Reservoir Drive Northeast is keeping the west side of the basin wet with the potential of mosquito breeding. Is it the Parks Department responsibility to spray the standing water for the mosquitoes? The mayor said in the newspaper August 1st of 2017 per Joel Smith that option 1 was off the table. Does anyone on council need reminded of the 3 options? I've got the newspaper article right here. If you think spending $30,000 to clear the banks of the reservoir of trees and weeds is going to pacify we who want the water back, so you can justify spending $125,000 on the Duncan Plaza, you're sadly mistaken. Clearing the banks of the reservoir is exposing option 1 that the mayor did not want. We refer to the reservoir basin as the ditch. Almost $50 million has been collected in taxes by the Park and Rec Department since 1996. And what do we have to show for it? Restore Our Reservoir Committee strongly opposes any park and rec tax funds going to Duncan Plaza. We would like the City Council to amend the state grant for Duncan Plaza to include excavating of the Cippo Creek Reservoir. The mayor talked about liking to plan ahead what plans are made for the ditch, which is the creek. You know, it's disgusting, it's despicable, and it's a shame that it's been left to go the way it is. Especially when it's your front yard and you gotta look at it every day. That's ridiculous.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Is there anybody else out there who would like to comment?
I'd like to answer your question. What are the plans for the reservoir? You said right there that you plan up to 2 years ahead. It's been 2 years, 3 months, and 3 days since you destroyed it. Now what are your plans?
Okay, members of council, Mr. Reiser, that problem with the reservoir was an inherent inherited problem of 26 years, almost 3 decades. When I came into office, we attempted to fix that problem, and our engineer department wrote a grant, which we did not get. We did have a plan ready to bring to council the day that the ODNR came in and said, you must drop it. And so we had to comply. When you're underneath ODNR, you have to comply. And at the time, they said we couldn't even ask for funding to help with that. We were able to work with our state legislators, Scott Olsager, Kirk Schuring, Thomas West, and we were able to secure $250,000 to do what they asked us to do. And we also did a survey. And the survey, as you all can remember, was not answered by many people in our community. So we were trying to decide, with the help of our community, on what is the best option, and we gave 3 options. And I believe between 300 and 500 people responded out of 32,000 plus residents. That was not enough for us to make a decision on. Since then, there's a long-standing issue with the law department that said that there was dual responsibility with the mayor and the parks director, that the parks board and the mayor oversaw the parks director. It was a long-standing feud. So we hired outside counsel to decide for us who is in charge of the parks department. And we brought it back to council, and it could be either the safety and service director or the park board. And city council chose and voted, I think unanimously, I'm not sure if someone was absent, that they wanted the parks board to be in charge of the parks director and the parks and the facilities. So I am no longer in charge of the park and rec department. Steve Pedro can sign his own contracts, and he answers to the park board. So I hope that answers your question.
No. What are your plans? Your personal plans?
Well, if there's anything that needs to be done, a survey needs to be done again. Because I know that it's your front yard, but people on the west side don't agree with that. So they don't want to see the money spent for the reservoir. They don't want to spend $5 million or $3 million or $1.5 million. So I think that the community needs to weigh in on what they want to see for the reservoir. It can't be my personal decision. It has to be a community decision. So we can institute another survey, but people have to answer it so that we know what direction to take.
Our committee gave the city a survey with 389 signatures on it, telling the city what they wanted, and you threw it away. The city just threw it away.
Sir, I did not throw that away.
What
We're
those
going to
people
debate
wanted.
this. All right.
Sir, I did not throw that away. But 300 signatures compared to 32,000 residents is not enough to tell us what the community wants. Everybody would have to pay towards that. And so we just felt that we didn't have enough to make that decision. And so what we decided to do was get out from underneath ODNR, and the date was December 31st, 2018. So it just happened. We just received our letter last November that we were no longer under the ODNR jurisdiction. So I just want to clarify the dates on that. This is 2019. And once again, I am not in charge of the Park and Rec department. That is Steve Pedro, and he answers to the Park and Rec board. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you said that the community should.
I'm sorry, but we need you in the microphone for the record, please. You stated that the community shouldn't have to pay for it. We've been paying for our parks since 1996, almost $50 million worth. Where has that money gone? Why aren't our parks fixed up? Is all that money going to that golf course? Tell me, where did $50 million go to?
Well, it's gone to take care of the parks, the rec center, the budget. It's gone to take care of all of that.
Well, none of the parks look good.
Anybody else have any comments? I'd just like to remind you, all the residents here, that every council meeting, we just started doing this at the committee meetings, but if you come to the regular council meetings, there's a place on our agenda every 2 weeks where you can make these types of comments. And I think everybody should take advantage of that.
I'll be there. Thank you very much. One thing I want to talk about is a little bit different take, and I want to cover again the First Energy. Councilman Lewis asked about the flow of money, the sources of the funds for the $10,000. Councilperson Cunningham talked about a company that's going bankrupt, and I believe you talked about are there any attachments to a check from First Energy, if there's any special conditions and so on. Hopefully I address a little bit of all of that in this short conversation. I'll keep it as brief as I can. I heard about the letter from AEP, and that's really sweet, but understand First Energy is the parent corporation of First Energy Solutions. There was no confusion. I purposefully put the two together because they are the same. They separated for the sake of bankruptcy. So they could file bankruptcy, First Energy Solutions could file bankruptcy, and solicit funds from the taxpayers of this state. I talked about that, I'm not going to review that. They are looking for hundreds of millions of dollars for a bailout from all of us in this room, all of us right here. So that's a separate issue that is under the parent company of First Energy Corporation. Now, just last month in June, we want to know the source and the flow of funds. Guess where that money came from, that $10,000? I'll tell you, the Supreme Court of Ohio found out where it came from. They found, not a fraudulent, let me take that back, an improper charge on First Energy bills on all of us. And that amount, what was it over the last 2 years? Almost $400 million. Now, is that going to be returned to you, to me, to all of these folks? No, there's no law that says they have to return that. State Representative Romanchuk put it up, and it never made it out of committee, that any funds should be returned to the people that have been overcharged on their bill. The next step is, where do we go from there? Can we ask you who has authority to do that? The Public Utilities Commission of Ohio or our state legislature? One of the two. Guess how much the amount is? Romanchuk found out across the state how much that amount is. $2 billion have been overcharged to the utility payers of this state, and there is no provision to return that to us, the bill payers. So you want to know where $10,000 came from for this funding project? It came right here in every person in this room, and it's never going to be returned to us. And $10,000 isn't enough to buy my vote, and $10,000 is not enough to buy my acceptance of something they have done wrong to every citizen in this state, and including every citizen of Massillon, Ohio. That's where the flow of money comes from. I've got documentation if anybody cares to see it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Question. Was there a survey done for the Duncan Plaza project? And is there, can you verify that there's community support for this project?
Excuse me. Would you give us your name?
Yeah. Swartz, Dan Swartz.
Okay. There is community support. We receive foundation support. We visited with the DMA, Main Street, and that's where we received these letters from. So there's Alex came from the museum. She had to have her board support before she would write a letter. The Stark County, the West Stark Chamber. So there is significant support.
Survey?
Didn't we also have public presentations at council work sessions and meetings for this back in probably 17 or 18 when this project was started?
We have.
Looking for public opinion?
And we did not do a survey on this. We had overwhelming support, so we did not do a survey.
Anybody else?
Me. George Cleveland, 222 Lake Avenue, Massillon, Ohio. Taxpayer. But anyways, You know, when they unveiled the Massillon, I was here. I don't know if the mayor remembers that, but, you know, I was against it. But now that things have progressed, you know, I'm kind of on the fence about whether it's going to work or not. And I know there are stages involved in this, and I think when they unveiled the Massillon, we're able to stop if we want to. I think that was presented at the time, because it is in like 4 stages. So if things aren't going as planned, I think we can stop the flow of what's going to happen in the city. But as far as the amphitheater, I'm all for it. I think that would be a great asset to the city. Like she said, Camden's doing it, Jackson's doing it. And if we do it, you know, there's possibility for revenue. You know, if anybody wanted to, you know, lease it for a night and charge, the city can make money. I don't know if that's ever been addressed, or is it just a free venue? Is it, you know, you never really spoke if everything's always going to be free. But about the only thing I'm against is the artificial turf. You know, I don't know what the cost is, but is that a necessity? I like grass. I mean, it's green, it's, you know, it's soft, looks nice when it's, you know, manicured and stuff, but, and also, maybe another way to generate money with these brick pavers you want to do is have people buy bricks. They did that at Centennial Park in Atlanta for the Olympics. People bought bricks, and I think they've done it somewhere else there in the city. I'm not really sure. They do it at the stadium. Okay, so people, you know, that gets people, you know, energized about the venue itself too. But I'm all for the venue. I mean, that would be a great asset to the city. You know, just with talking with Paul previously, $1 million isn't a lot of money. You know, if you think about it. I'm just going by what he. You know, I'm agreeing with this guy, but it is if you think about it. But you know, I'd like to, if you could address that. Would that be a possible venue where the city can maybe make money at some point? And as far as Civil Reservoir Park, these people spoke tonight. I'm up here all the time preaching about that. That's Pedro's park. You know, so I'd be talking to him. Because me and Pedro's have many talks, and he's very open to conversation. So if I was going to talk to anybody, I'd talk to Pedro, because I would like to see the geese gone, you know, and at least on that top part, the top part where the two structures are, I forget what they're called, but the structures where, pavilions, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not reading from script here. Pavilions. People can enjoy that area without the geese crapping all over the place. They re-poured concrete out there. There's geese crap all over the new pavilion where they poured concrete. But anyways, if you could just solidify that one area where it's, you know, the top north end, and maybe put a fence around it and put dogs there at night and chase them geese off, I think it would make that park would be a lot nicer than it is. That's all I know. And if the mayor could comment, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks.
The turf that was planned has been removed and it will be grass, so that's already been done.
Amen.
Yeah.
What about the paved?
The venue to run in. You can rent many places, but we've always used Duncan Plaza as anyone that would like to use it could use it. There's been prayer sessions out there. We had a United Way picnic. We rolled out our United Way program, trying to get our employees to donate to United Way. We've had picnics out there. We have our pep rally out there in August. We don't charge.
So
for
the
that.
agenda is to keep it free all the time and just people sign to use it for the night, is that like a park?
They just usually call our office or Steve Pedro and say, can I use it? We check with one another to make sure no one's given them permission, and then they utilize it. But it's not often that that's done. The other piece to this project is not this year, not in 2020, but possibly 2021, we would like to add the skate rink. So the skate rink would go on top of that, which would be removable.
Don't forget July 12th, which I think is Friday, is the island party, the 25th annual island party, at the museum.
This weekend, right?
Yes, Mom. Okay.
I have one more thing to go over.
Go.
It's a different topic. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bill Weaver. The question I have for you is, I'm not against the amphitheater thing, but I want to know how much damage it's going to cause to the Veterans Park.
Thank you.
That's what I want to know. I recently got involved in helping, and I see people there, because we're downtown, when we see strangers walking around town, and they go over there and they spend a lot of time over there. So I want to make sure that that part of it is protected from the amphitheater, the damage, because when they build something here, they damage out here. So we need to protect that area, and I want to make sure that that's what's being done
It should not be touched.
at all.
I don't know.
Okay. The second thing I have to say is about the downtown streetscape. It's been kind of botched so far. The timetable has been really screwed up. We're 2 months into this, and we don't have anything done but water and gas, and it's not even done. The 3-month down time for downtown is now going to be 5 months or more, because that something always happens. So what happens to the downtown businesses now? The 3-month thing is out the window. Now it's going to be 5 months, 6 months. What happens then?
The company that has contracted, it does have, what do you want to call it, a clause there that says that it must be done by a certain date, or they have to start paying the city.
Okay, well, that doesn't help us. But we're already 2 months into it.
Well, that was, Bill, that was for the water and the gas, and a 130-year-old pipe, you are going to have some issues.
I understand that that was supposed to take 1 month to do that, and then there's going to be 3 more months for the construction process.
3 months to be closed down. So the project should be completed in October, completely completed, is what is projected from the contractor. And but what we have done is we put up signs, a parking space for each entity that's open.
That was ridiculous as well. 1 parking spot per business is nothing, and people have to go hunting for that 1 spot. That was just a lame idea to try to appease some of the downtown businesses. 1 spot doesn't help anybody with anything.
Phil, that was what was requested by some of our businesses, so we complied with their request.
But how does a customer even come to my store know where our parking spot is located, and what if there's already a car in it? That whole thing didn't even make sense. But the idea that we know it's going to take longer, we know it, and we're killing some of the businesses, and nobody thought about that. Nobody considered the thousands upon thousands of dollars that businesses were losing, and that some were going to close and were going to go in the hole. I figure my restaurant was losing $1,500 a day, average. Okay, you'll never make that up. You'll never make it up. But I still got a $4,000 a month mortgage to pay. But if I would stay open, I would have lost $3,500 a week, almost every single week, out of pocket. I'm not talking about loss of business, out of pocket. You can't survive, you know? And nobody's talking about the businesses. Nobody's caring about the businesses. Nobody's beyond the parking spot. The parking spot, who cares?
Well, we also have walkability to all the businesses, and we've also put up signs, as we promised we would do,
I saw
to
signs.
say that these businesses are open.
The problem we have is we have an overpopulation. You all know that. Look at us, we're all over. They're not gonna walk. Some of them can't walk. You know, we were happy with our clientele because they were older. They were the people that remembered the Sugar Bowl. They were the ones who, you know, wanted to come back to the nostalgic part of it, you know? And now nobody can get there, especially the older people can't get there. And now they've dug up some of the sidewalks and run the gas lines in. So now it's also a hazard. You know, so that's something that you need to look at, because even with the signs and all that kind of stuff, people aren't going to walk. The liability of people falling is tremendous. We actually had a lady in a wheelchair come down Lincoln the other day in front of Donnery's. And I went out and helped her. We picked her wheelchair up to get her across a ravine where they had dug in to put a gas line. And we carried her to the other side. And then we had to go down towards Engraver's Gallery, and then we had to pick her up again and move her over. So, you know, you're gonna have some problems here.
Right.
And I think we need to, and these are all things that nobody thought about, but we need to maybe address.
Well,
Public safety is a big thing.
it is an inconvenience, and we realize that, but, you know, we are behind the times on changing our downtown. There are many cities. Canton is 10, 12 years ahead of Massillon. You know, Worcester is a booming city now because they renovated, and we benchmarked Worcester. We were up in Cleveland, we went to Kent, and you can see Canton, what their downtown looks like. And our engineering company has told us, everybody else is way ahead of you. You need to get moving on this. And they were right. It will help your business in the end. It's just a large inconvenience now. We understand that. And that's why we're pushing things out on Facebook. We're pushing things out with the signs and adding a parking space, because when we went to the chamber meeting, that was a concern, the DMA meeting, or the Main Street meeting. That was a concern that some of the business owners said, was that they needed a specific parking spot. So we did that as well for you. We have public parking that we put on our website to let people know where to park publicly so that they can access your building. But I can tell you, I was down at Smiley's 2 times last week for dinner, and he said he has no problems on Sundays. He's packed. So there is still revenue to gain if you like push through it. And I know it's hard.
Yeah, it was too much for me. The loss, you know, $7,000 in 2 weeks was way too much money for me to start dropping off.
I understand.
You know, I had to make a tough choice to stop the bleeding. And I don't regret doing that. But it doesn't say that I don't regret losing the amount of money that we were going $45,000 a month. You know, and times 6 months, that's a lot of money.
I agree. And soon you'll be able to get back open, and we'll all come down and we'll patronize your business
In October.
and get you back up and running.
Yeah.
But I apologize, but this is something that it's painful to do, but it's necessary to do.
Time will tell.
I want to say one more thing.
Bill, you want to sign the sheet for me, please? Mr. Hattiesville also.
I will be more than happy if you get me a golf cart or some kind of a cart to drive around downtown to the parking lots to get the people that can't walk to where they want to go. So I would like to sit out free every day, and I'll be more than happy to help them get where they want to go.
Thank you, John.
Anybody else? Is there anybody else after this yet?
Michael Sneed, 2212 Alden Avenue. biggest issue on the west side that I run into are the roads. But there are many on the west side who would like to see the reservoir restored. There's been multiple people who have publicly come out and said they have many memories there. It's hard to quantify everybody in a single group, in a singularity, and say this is what everybody wants, because that's not how it works. You all know that. But yeah, my wife goes out walking with her 16-month-old son, and we have multiple storm drains that have holes next to the storm drains that kids can fall down into, which is a huge liability. And speaking of storm drains, I know a question has come up, but I haven't heard anybody raise it in council, at least in my knowledge, of events that happened a couple weeks ago where some teenagers fell into a storm sewer and went a mile underneath the ground out to the river. How come we don't have grates protecting larger objects going through there? I'm just wondering. As far as streetscape, I teach truck drivers for a living. I work with regulatory, ODOT, all the time, all day long. The trees are a concern, especially with some of these new guys out there. It's just as hard to teach a truck driver as it is to raise a kid. So, a lot of these guys, I'm wondering the maintenance of it, and that's another question I don't hear get brought up too often, is let's create these new wonderful projects. What's the maintenance of the streetscape? I haven't heard anything on it. How are we put these planters in the sidewalk that were beautiful, and I really enjoyed them. But a couple years went down the road and they began to crack and fall apart, and now we're in the streetscape, so they get taken out anyway. Well, what is your plan to maintain the streetscape? I'm just directly asking you. That's all
I did realize this was a question and answer for the mayor, or I would have more things to share with you. But maintenance for our streetscape is going to be maintenance just like we do for any other street. It'll just be our standard process. And usually our goal is to pave every 10 to 15 years. And so we'll be doing that as well.
Is that it? Anybody else want to speak, raise your hand so I have an idea here of what's going on.
I really had no intentions of talking tonight, but I wanted to bring up, I normally find out about things on the internet. And I've been trying to come to council meetings for quite a while, and I finally got here tonight. This Imagine Massillon, I never seen anything on the internet for it, okay? And I do not, unfortunately, I do not have cable. I do not have Massillon cable, so I have to watch council meetings if they're on there. I do have Massillon Facebook, but of course sometimes that gets put off to the side. But what I was wondering, you said there's 4 stages to this Massillon Imagine. What are the other stages? Is any of this online? And the council website, or your notes, doesn't really explain what is going on. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. I mean, the notes say, okay, this person talked about this ordinance, and this person talked about this ordinance, but it doesn't really explain what those ordinances are and what they mean. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Thank you.
If I can answer that question, it's been in the newspaper as well as on our www.massillon.gov has the Imagine Massillon project on our website.
All 4 stages?
No, not all 4 stages. We have 2 stages right now. We have the Lincoln Way and then the amphitheater. And then we also will be taking that up. We really wanted to take it up to 3rd Street, but it was too much to go all the way up to 3rd Street. So they'll be phasing that in 3rd and 4th. And then we're working with Main Street, Massillon Main Street for Erie. So that's another phase that we're working on. And you've noticed the trees are all missing on Erie South. And those were removed so that Main Street can start to paint some of those buildings so the facades look more inviting. They're going to be working on the windows. So that is another aspect that we're working on. And then you can see Erie North, where Jeff Dahl has purchased a building and he's working on renovating that, and Tremont Coffee recently moved to that building. So Erie North and South will be additional phases as well. Thank you.
I have one question, Mayor. If there was anybody else. You said about when the shutdown will be finished. It still will be 90 days from the beginning, whenever it does begin.
That's what I've been told by the OHM and the contractors. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. I just have one more item that I'd like to address,
Sure.
if I may. We passed this out.
I think we did that last week.
We did, but there were several members missing, so I just wanted to take a minute to review. It's this Saturday. It's our neighborhood community fair. And not only being the mayor, but I'm also a nurse. And so I want to help assist our residents with connecting to resources, whether that be jobs, a trade, college, or maybe drug rehab, learning how to, where the bus routes are. So we have many, many entities. I'm going to say about 22 that are coming this Saturday. The Altman Hospital and MCT are sponsoring it. There will be giveaways for the community members that come. There'll be, they can possibly win a television that MCTV has sponsored. I know Altman is giving away a girl bike, as well as fresh fruits. I'm going to sponsor 2 Instapots for that event, and the Y is giving away 3-month family memberships, and the Park and Rec is giving away 1 family membership for 3 months. But this is important so that we can connect our communities with our resources. If they would like to find a job, there's going to be the trades there. I believe there will be some jobs programs there as well. There'll be an entire map for the residents to utilize. And then the football team will be there to play with the kids for an hour. The soccer team is coming. The Hummer will be there, as well as a fire truck, and then the Lions train, to really try to bring our residents out of their homes and to enjoy from 11 until 4. And it's going to be a fun day. If it works well, then we'll move around the city to continue to connect our residents to resources and to access either trades, colleges, if they need startup, etc.
Kathy, where would it be?
Oh, I'm sorry, L.C. Jones Park. L.C. Jones. So please share this information with the community. We'd love, I know Councilwoman Creamer is going to come out, but you're all welcome to come out and connect with the residents and really try to connect them to resources as well. So it should be a fun afternoon. And so far, I think Mother Nature says we're going to have sunshine.
All right. This ordinance, I'm going to hold this at least until the next committee meeting, and maybe we'll have something from the law director. Probably after that, we'll probably put it on, and we can go however we want. My only problem here is the fall behind on the streetscape has bothered me a lot. And, you know, we're going to be 6 weeks into this thing by the sound of it before anything happens. You know, so that's going to drag that out that much more. And I see a few other things are behind. And I know we have to do one thing at a time. We have to more, just, you know, we have to walk and chew gum at the same time and everything. But it's just a few things, loose ends. Richville Drive's finished now, but we were talking about doing Richville Drive 2 years ago. And, you know, last year we were supposed to do it, and we did move the telephone poles and stuff. And some of these things are bothering me, and I just hate to see everything all torn up. Especially if you look in the Plaza, it's really not a bad looking place right now. We'll decide that when we vote on this. Anybody else have any comments?
Were you going to read that letter we received via email?
Regarding
regarding the Duncan Plaza?
Pardon me?
Were you going to read, remember, I gave you that email? They wanted it into the record because they couldn't make the meeting tonight.
Oh, I'm not gonna read that, but, I don't know, everybody got this letter in on council. Did you get a letter? Pardon? From Lou Garrett? No, I don't wanna read this in right now.
Okay.
Maybe I'll read it at the next meeting.
Okay.
But get copies of it and send them all to all the council people. So make sure they know, I don't know, maybe I'll have it in the paper eventually, but he's got some comments on this himself. He should come down tonight and talk about it. That's all I have. Thank you. Once you get this and give it to him, so